Welcome to writingalong.com. Today's episode is all about how do I end my story, which for a lot of people is probably one of the most difficult parts of writing, because you start something and you very fancifully just have this idea in your brain of, oh, this is how I want to begin it, this is kind of the tone I want to set, and this is what all the characters are going to be doing, and it's going to end up where? I don't know, I haven't thought about it, right? So even if you have an outline and you did create one, beginning, middle, end, something simple, that's all you need, and you get to that end, suddenly you're going to become very self-conscious about, well, how do I culminate everything? How do I essentially sum and equally provide a sense of really release, a sense of closure to all these little minor and larger macro micro connections between characters. Like, there's a lot, and an end just seems so difficult. It's quite intimidating, as a lot of this stuff is when you're starting out. And my answer to you is just pick something simple, because that's going to resonate a lot more. The complexity of it, the dynamics, the heightening of experiences of emotions that will be portrayed are just going to be emphasized in contrast by this significant variance in all these stories, all these little plots and subplots that need to be resolved. If you could find a way to do that easily, your reader's going to love you, your audience is going to love you, and it's just going to create this kind of lasting impression. It's not going to be it's not an explosion, but it's the after effects of that are really going to be felt. It's almost like the explosive part is invisible. You feel it, but you don't see it. You don't read it, but it happens, and it resonates. And that's all you really need to do as far as your ending. Pick something that even seems kind of logical. When you try to do a surprise ending, and I really mean try, like, it's an effort, it's a strain. Like, oh, let me put some big twist that no one will see coming. That's not authentic if it doesn't come naturally to you. You might write a story one day where that does, and that is your next thought. But if you think you just have to include that just for the sake of it, it's really not going to fit in well. It's just not. And you want a story that feels more human, more realistic. A robot can write a story. All right, you can feed it a computer program that tells it include this, include that, and then always be sure to end it like this. And that's something that a robot would write. You're not that. There's no point in trying to imitate that, because what you have already is more valuable. It's something more kind of limited to the scope of what writers can accomplish, where their place in the world, which is something that can't really be replaced by anything else. And that's why people who find the skill of writing in them, and who cultivate it, and who really dedicate themselves to crafting that skill, it's something that is hard to put a price tag on. You can't exactly put a dollar sign or anything on it, because the lasting impact of a well-told story has an effect that can't be calculated. You might influence the next generation of the species, or generation 10 down the line. You don't know. You can't know, and all you can really do is tell the best story you can by providing the best ending you can. And again, that ending doesn't need to shake the earth. It doesn't need to be something no one's ever heard before. Just put an end to it, and you'll find that in terms of what the audience likes, what readers like, what do you like? Don't you like things that have not just the direction? I have a video on making a point with what you say, but you always want it. You enjoy something as an end. It's constrained. You get a painting. Guess what? Yeah, they could have painted more outside the box, but outside the rectangle, whatever they painted. But guess what? They stuck to the constraints. And because of that, it's like looking into a window. A song too. It's funny to visualize sound like this, because that's how we do it now, right? Especially like audio files. You get this little, this is how long the MP3 is. And this song is this much longer. This song is this, like, even that's not the only way to look at it. a song is like a window too. It's like you're looking into something. You know, your writing is just like that too. And the second you put a ending, it doesn't have to be the best thing in the world, changes everything. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself too, and it's also unnecessary. You just want to create that little constraint, that little box, and it could be any shape you want. I'm just kind of using this as an example. It's a border. It's something that almost limits it. It sets it apart from the rest of the reality that it is existing in. And it's not just an unfinished thing, it's something finished too, which is kind of my thing on endings. Finish already. You know, like, if you have a story, like a novel you started, and it's not really going anywhere, and you don't think it's ever going to go anywhere, you like, it's just really just gone. Like, make it a short story, a long short story, you know, like, that's just as appealing. Or if you want to make a poetry collection, let's say, oh, you only have a few poems, make it a poetry selection. And that's all you really got to do. It's just the second you close the door on something, you say, I built this, I made this. That's a statement in itself, and that's something you want to have for yourself as well. It's the difference between a writer and someone who just thinks about writing, or who just likes the idea of being a writer. It takes something to end something that you've created. It's like you're closing the door on a little era, even if it's just a short story, right? Even if it's just a chapter or something. But a novel is, you know, what I talk about a lot, but that's not all there is as far as writing. You know, I like to cover as many bases as I can on here at once without covering too many that I don't cover any, you know. And with that, I'm telling you, someone who just thinks about writing, they have their hand at it, you know, maybe they just journal a few things, you know, they're cool. But who are the people you really, you know, like, they're a writer. They have something. They put something out into the world, and to do that, they had to close the door on it. All right, they had an experience that they were able to portray through words. And guess what they had to do before they could push it out? It's not like they threw it out in the world and it's connected by this tether, you know, like it's done. It's not like I have this video uploaded and it never ends. I'm still recording it right now. No, I have to put an end on it. With your stories, do that too. And yeah, not everything is gonna land. You know, not everything you write is gonna be perfect. But it doesn't even matter. You don't need to think about that. The concept of perfection isn't really something to be chased. It's something to be discarded because it's not really relevant at all to writing. You're saying something. You have something. And to give it, are you still going to be holding on to it? No. If you just have a bunch of pieces of writing that you haven't ended, it's like you're holding on to all of them, just saying, no, they're all mine. But a writer, you think they're respected and admired just because? No, it's because they give. People like to receive. They like to know that a gift is there for them. They like to know that something is there waiting for them, that something's being offered to them, and give it to them. So do that as a writer. And that's a magnetic effect already on your prose, on the way that you write. You'll be pleasantly surprised when you just start ending your stories at what happens to how you think and feel about yourself too, because you kind of go from that transition phase of not really feeling inauthentic, wondering if you could even call yourself someone like a writer, but it's not like this mountain top, or you don't have to go to space and write about that to be a writer. No, you just have to have finished things. It feels good. You feel accomplished, first of all, on your own. Like, you feel like I did something, and I did something valuable. And most people wouldn't have actually said, I'm done, but I did. You did. You can say that for yourself. It's not just reserved for a select few in this world. I mean, you have the option to take charge, the agency to take control of that choice. But you have to know what that choice is, and I'm giving you what that choice is. It's ending your stories. And again, how do you do that? I like to sum a lot of stuff up at the end, because some people skip to the end, and that's okay. And it doesn't, make it simple. Just make it as dead easy as you can, because when you have all these complexities going on in the middle of your story, and it ends on this note that is just so familiar and just even expected, the reader's not going to treat it like that. They're going to see it like that or read it like that. It's just going to be like, oh wow, that was. It's like it's still echoing in their head, like, wow, it was all of that into this. And it's the kind of thing you stare off and think, you'd probably look crazy if you're just staring off at other people and they don't know what you're even talking or thinking about or looking at, but like an idea is just floating through your head and you're like, wow. Those are the kinds of endings that you can achieve when you prioritize looking at it as a whole, treating it like a whole, and by making it a whole, again, you have to let go of it a little bit. Let go of your idea. Let's say you really felt like you didn't execute it as well as you wish you could have. Just let it go. You'll have other ideas, some even better, some you would have never known if you didn't end your story. Check out How to Write a Book in 30 Days at writingalong.com. If you're interested in writing a book, it's a guide really just made for you, made just for you. I want to thank you for tuning in today, and if you have a story that you're struggling to end, let me know why. What's the plot, and what's the ending you wish you could come up with? Like, what would it look like? What would it feel like? What kind of impact would it have on the reader? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious. Again, I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again for tuning in. See you.